Tom, can't hear the piano.
The music Eileen brings us this morning is French. Eileen has said, quote, "French music often feels delicate and subtle, reminding me that I can choose to live a calm, rich life with what is before me. The music is more akin to pastels than primary colors, and yet its shadings nudge me to consider that it accurately reflects the rich, diverse beauty of the world in which we live." Thank you, Eileen, for your music and for adding meaning to it. Before we start, I want to confess that I have committed a terrible error. There are no hymnals that have been passed out, and we will be singing a song where they might come in handy. So if there's anybody who feels inspired to pass out a teal and a gray hymnal here and there, thank you, and my apologies. Today, we reflect with a prophecy made by Hopi elders in the year 2000. You have been telling people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that this is the hour, and there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth. Create your community. Be good to each other. And do not look outside yourself for your leader. Then he clasped his hands together, smiled, and said, "This could be a good time. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid." Excuse me. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keep our eyes open and our heads above the water. And I say, see who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey come to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves, banish the word struggle from your attitude and your vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Whidbey Island. My name is Toyin Copeland, and we do welcome you regardless of who you are or what you believe. You are welcome to bring your problems, your pain, your joys, and your wonderings, your need to hope, your curiosity, your hunger to learn, your search for community, and your longing for assurance. Rather than answers, may you find here safety for your questions. Thank you for joining us, and thank you to the technicians, ushers, and many others who have contributed to this service in the life of our congregation. May we never forget that we are on the land of the Snohomish people and that we acknowledge the sovereignty, history, experiences, and presence of these original inhabitants of this unceded land on which we have established ourselves. I have two announcements before we continue. Following the service, the Pledge Drive Committee has set up a table in the foyer to be available to answer questions that you might have. You will be receiving your pledge packet in the mail within the next day or two. And in addition, this year there will be cottage gatherings being scheduled. Clara Barr will be available in the foyer to answer your questions after the service. Some of you may have noticed that your name tag, maybe you haven't noticed, your name tag has a little gold square on it, or orange square. Not everybody, but some. If you do have such a marking, it's to let you know that we need your picture for the Breeze directory. When you go online, there are pictures of people. Please submit a headshot of yourself to the administrator, admin@uucwi.org, or see a membership person at the welcoming table who will be happy to take your picture for you. And if you don't want to be included in this way, just let us know. We are pleased to welcome to our pulpit today Martha Durkee Newman. You may recall that Martha spoke to us twice this past year by Zoom from Boston, where she was completing her Master's of Divinity at Harvard Divinity School. She is now an intern minister at Edmonds UU congregation. And Martha is a lifelong UU. Her academic and civic interests have been in reproductive justice, equity in sexual education, and gun violence prevention. She has worked with Oxfam America and more recently served as the Director of Religious Education for a church in Massachusetts. At this moment, many of us remember Martha most for her skillful facilitation just yesterday at our workshop. We got to see firsthand her energy, enthusiasm, and incredible abilities to elicit from us thoughts, observations, wishes, and appreciations. She heard us, and she helped give meaning to what she heard, and she helped us hear each other. We look forward to Martha's summary of all she received from us. For me, it was an amazing day. She kept 50 of us totally engaged and fully participating, and many hours went by very quickly. Thank you so much, Martha. Martha will light our chalice this morning. We light this chalice to honor our work, to celebrate our community, and to bring hope and determination to our mission in the wider world. Please rise in body or spirit and join in speaking our affirmation, and please remain standing for singing our first hymn. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is its practice. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another. Hymn 298.
Good morning. Hi, friends. My name is Martha Durkee-Newman. I'm so delighted to get to be here with you on your Sunday morning and your Saturday. It has been such a joy and a delight for me to get to be here. So this is the part of the service where I have a story to share with you. I served for many years as a director of religious education, and so I believe deeply in the power of stories for all ages and their ability to communicate with us in some very specific ways. So the story that I have for you this morning is a retelling of a European folktale called Stone Soup. Some of you may have heard this story before, so I invite you to hear it this morning as if it is the first time. Once upon a time, In a time not too different from ours, in a place not too different from ours, there was a great time of famine. The people in one small village didn't have enough to eat and definitely did not feel they had enough to store for winter. People were afraid they would go hungry, and so they hid the small bits of food that they had from their neighbors and friends. It was a dark and uncertain time where the future seemed bleak. One day, a young traveler came to the village. She asked all around for something to eat since she was hungry from being out on the road all day. She asked many people, and they all said, "There's not a bite to eat in the whole town. You better keep on moving." Then she said, "Oh, don't worry. I have everything I need. But how sad, since none of you have anything to eat. Perhaps I shall make some of my famous stone soup to share with all of you." "Stone soup," said the villagers. They had never heard of this delicacy. It must be from whatever country the young traveler had come from. First, she pulled a big black cooking pot from her wagon, filled it with water, and built a large fire under it in the center of the village square. Then slowly she reached into her knapsack and pulled out, while the villagers looked on, a large, plain, gray stone. She dropped it, plunk, into the pot. Now, hearing about this stone soup, many of the villagers had come and were standing around the square. As the traveler sniffed the soup and rubbed her hands, she said, "Ah, I do love a tasty stone soup. How delicious. But of course, stone soup with a little cabbage is even better." One of the villagers realized that maybe he had a little cabbage at home. So he ran back to his house and soon reappeared in the village square holding a cabbage. "I have this cabbage from my garden," he said, and he held it out for the traveler to see. "Fantastic," she said. She cut up the cabbage and added it to the pot. "You know, I once had a stone soup with cabbage and beans," she said, "and it was to die for." Another villager realized that maybe she had some beans to share, so she ran back to her house and reappeared, dropping them in the pot. "Perhaps a little beef could go a long way for the flavor," said the traveler. The butcher thought maybe he could find some beef scraps, so he ran back to his shop, and soon the other villagers offered bits of vegetables from their own gardens, potatoes and onions, carrots and celery. Soon the big black pot was bubbling and steaming and smelled delicious. After a while, it seemed that everyone from the town had brought the one small thing that they could contribute. When the soup was ready, there was an abundant amount, and the traveler spooned out a bowl for each person, and everyone in the village had a bowl of soup, and it was delicious, and soon they were full. "This must be a magic stone," said the villagers. They offered the traveler money and treasures and anything they had in exchange, but she refused to sell. "We need it," they cried. "It is the silver bullet. It is the thing that has saved us from our hunger and our isolation." The villagers cried out to her, but still she wouldn't give it up, and the next day she left and traveled on her way. After she left, the villagers moped about for a little while. Where was this magical stone, this solution to our problems? But after a while, they came to see in this hard time of famine, they would need one another. They would need to come together to make soup. So first they came together, and they weren't sure the soup was going to taste quite as good without the magic stone. But after some time, they found that it felt good to share their resources with one another, and they realized they had more that way. So even if they never had stone soup again, they found in one another companions to make it through the dark time and a warm bowl of soup for their hands. The end.
I'd like to ad-lib about stone soup. Uh, it's time for us to come together and generously give what we can to create our own stone soup this morning. All that we do together, we know, leads to a greater good for ourselves and our world than any one of us could do alone. And we do ask for your financial contribution to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and in hope.
Thank you so much, Eileen. This morning's reading is a poem called Poem for South African Women by the poet June Jordan. It was written in commemoration of the 40,000 women and children who on August 9th, 1956, presented themselves in bodily protest against the Donbass in the capital of apartheid. It was presented by June Jordan at the United Nations on August 9th of 1978. Our own shadows disappear as the feet of thousands by the 10,000s pound the fallow land into the new dust that rising like a marvelous pollen will be fertile even as the first woman whispering imagination to the trees around her made for righteous fruit. From such deliberate defense of life as no other still will claim inferiority to any other safety in the world. The whispers, too, they intimate to the inmost ear of every spirit, corrosing in ferocious affirmation of all peaceable and loving amplitude, sound a certainly unbounded heat from a baptismal smoke where, yes, there will be fire. And the babies cease alarm as mothers raising arms and heart high as the stars so far unseen, nevertheless hurl into the universe a moving force irreversible as light years traveling to the open eye. And who will join the standing up, and the ones who stood without sweet company will sing and sing back into the mountains, and if necessary, under the sea. We are the ones we've been waiting for. On Friday, I drove over from Seattle here to your lovely little island. And I stood on the deck of the ferry, reminded of just a few days earlier when I went walking by the edge of the beautiful Puget Sound. The gulls were crying and swooping overhead. Kingfishers dived and played in the surf. The sky was our absolutely normal and utterly remarkable slate gray. The waves lapped at the shore with a comforting crash, and mist hung in the tops of the evergreen trees, looking sort of spooky and dramatic. A day not unlike today. As I stood at the edge of the sound, I felt completely overcome with its beauty. Lost in the gratitude that I get to live here on this stunning planet. Perhaps this has happened to you before. An overwhelming sense of awe and wonder that this divine world is close and real. I was standing by the sound and counting my blessings when my phone dinged, and it was my sister, texting me a TikTok video of two hedgehogs wearing party hats that reminded her of me. Amazing. This is a delight. And because I was in the middle of counting my blessings, I just added this to the list. How remarkable that I get to live on this planet at a time where hedgehogs can wear party hats and where my sister can text me and make me feel so loved and thought of. This is the best. This is heavenly. As I was doing this, I was reminded of a piece that I read recently by Amy Crows Rosenthal in the Encyclopedia of an Ordinary Life. Amy writes, "When I am feeling dreary, annoyed, and generally unimpressed by life, I imagine what it would be like to come back to the world for just a day after having been dead. I imagine how sentimental I would feel about the very things that I once found stupid or mundane. Oh, there's a light switch. I haven't seen a light switch in so long. I didn't realize how much I missed light switches. And oh, look, the stairs to our front porch are still completely cracked. Hello, cracks. Let me get a good look at you. And there's my neighbor, standing there, fantastically alive, just the same, still punctuating her sentences with, you know what I'm saying? why did that bother me so much? It's so endearing. I remembered this piece as I stood looking at the sound. What if I had already died, and if, surprising for me, I met a God I didn't know before, and I begged her to send me down to earth just for a moment so that I could stand here and look at the sound and get a text to watch a funny video. And I held this in my mind. So I sat down and I watched the TikToks and I laughed at the hedgehogs and I put my toes and my fingers into the rocky sand and I thought, if there is a heaven, I hope it is just like this. And then I got to come here to your beautiful community and hang out with you and hear your expressions of gratitude for your neighbors, your stories of the moments in which you felt belonging. And I thought how amazing this little church nestled here in the woods. What a miracle that it is here. What a delight to sit in this room with people as different experiences, theologies, and beliefs who come together to dream about who we can be together. What a little slice of heaven. So here's what I will say. I don't know what happens after we die. Something that I love about being a Unitarian Universalist is that many of us have different ideas about what happens after we die. We have different visions for what heaven might look like, if there even is one at all. But what we are united on is that whatever kind of afterlife or heaven that there is, or if we are returned to the earth from whence we came, it will be equal and the same for all people. This is an important belief that we have inherited from our chosen ancestors of the Universalists, who proclaimed at a time where it wasn't very popular that universal salvation is for everyone. What happens to one of us happens to all of us. There is no special place for some or different levels of unequal divine love or punishment. Our ancestors proclaimed this belief that we have inherited, that no matter who you are or what you look like or what you have done, you are worthy, the exact same as everybody else, and you deserve the exact same divine love as every person. If there is to be a heaven, which I'm still not sure about, we will end up there together. I, for one, hope that heaven feels like walking next to the sound. I hope that heaven feels like sitting in a little church in the woods with a beloved, diverse community of people struggling together, working diligently together to build something with and for one another. And when I realized that this was my hope, I also realized that I have access to that heaven right now. I don't have to wait to figure out what happens after I die. I can go walking by the sound today after church. We are gathered here in this room and online together on this fine morning in this little church in the woods. How lucky are we to have this little slice of heaven accessible at our fingertips. The words of my colleague, the Reverend Tess Bumbarger, come to me. If there is a heaven, it is right here, right now. In this particular arrangement of nature, this happening of earth, moon, and star, this constellation of instants, this laden moment, this flash of recognition, this particle of time. So at first I thought, in this particle of time, this one, this moment. What a miracle it is that this little community is here, nestled in the woods, tucked off of the highway, on this little island. And then I thought, well, actually, now that I have sat with your board members for months and heard these stories of how you all came to be here in this place and who you are and what you mean to one another, now that I've shared this room with you and heard how you participate in the building of this community together, the commitments that you are making about how to nurture its shared future, I thought this is no miracle after all. It took hard work and your diligence to create this little piece of heaven that you have. And it takes more hard work to make the heaven that you want to offer to one another, because we are a community of ourselves. This community's resources and gifts are our resources and gifts. There is no silver bullet or secret pot of gold or miracle cure or magic soup-making stone. There is no one special who comes to save us. We are the ones we've been waiting for. And we are the ones we've been waiting for to create this heaven on earth, because of this obligation that we have received as Unitarian Universalists to build a place where universal salvation is honored for every single person exactly the same. And it may not always feel like heaven because it is not perfect. But hear me out. Recently, I listened to a theologian who was talking about different heavens, and he played out this thought experiment. Say you come to the end of your life, and in heaven, again, a surprise for me, you can have everything exactly as you want it. Everything perfect. You get to create and dwell in worlds of perfection for eternity, over and over, creating a perfect world with everything you want and nothing ever wrong or hard or a struggle. Wouldn't you eventually get bored? Wouldn't you eventually get tired of perfection, of control? Wouldn't a smooth, unbumpy eternity be quite dull? Don't you think that after a while you would say, cast me back to the world and, well, surprise me. Surprise me. That feels a little like the world that we have. It might feel a little like the community we have. A community that takes work and struggle to create and maintain, a community of ourselves in which sometimes, and maybe all the time, we are constantly surprised. I am someone who believes when we live in a diverse world, in a beloved community where we have different backgrounds and experiences and theologies and ways of interacting with the world, there will be bumps in the road. We will come in contact with different beliefs and different perspectives than our own, and sometimes we will bump up against one another. But maybe those bumps, such as my neighbor saying, "You know what I'm saying?" which used to bother me, are important aspects of an interesting heavenly experience. Maybe the struggle of having to figure out together who we are and what we want and how we will belong to one another is actually a critical piece of our heaven in this little church in the woods. I still don't know what happens after we die. I don't know if I will reach a heaven in the afterlife. But what I do know, the thing that I am certain of, that I am sure of, is that I am here in this world right now with all of you. I can't rely on information that I do not yet know, but I can rely on the information I have, which is here we are in this room, in this particle of time. And therefore, the world of our dreams, a heaven of our own creation, here in our lifetimes on this beautiful planet, is not only possible, but probable and within our reach. And this heaven, this community of ourselves in which we treat one another with equity and dignity, in which we bring our dreams together, is my responsibility, our responsibility to create and offer to one another. Because we are all that we've got. So surprise me. Sometimes the seagulls will screech a little too close to my ear on the ferry. And sometimes the TikTok videos my sister sends me will just not be that funny. And sometimes my neighbor will go on and say little things that annoy me. You know what I'm saying? My heaven on earth will not be a perfect place. But in my heaven on earth, in the community that we create and offer to one another, we will offer what we do have: carrots from your garden, onions from my pantry. Together, we have enough. Together, we have everything that we need and the opportunity to start from right where we are at, because we are the ones we've been waiting for. In our churches, in our covenanted communities, we have the opportunity and maybe the obligation to practice heaven with one another, starting with each of us. This community and how we treat one another, how we live, how we are with our neighbors is a microcosm of how we believe the world should be. And when we practice that world to come, we create it as real. Heaven is what we offer to one another today. And I don't mean that theoretically, I mean that literally and practically. The vision that we develop and then enact creates the community that we have, and that is heaven made real on earth and practiced in community. I will leave you with these words again from my colleague, the Reverend Tess Bumbarger. Let us make this earth a heaven right here, right now. Who knows what existences death will bring? Let us create a heaven here on earth where love and truth and justice reign. We are the ones we've been waiting for. The only heaven we know of for sure is the one we offer to one another. So let us work to make it so. And then, come walk with me by the edge of the sound. Show me the videos that you think are funny. We can put our toes in the water together while the gulls cry overhead, and let it be a heaven on earth. May it be so, and blessed be. I invite you to join us for our closing hymn, which is in your teal hymnal number 1028, The Fire of Commitment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. May this benediction carry us in our week to come. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free. This song lies in the heaven that is here on earth, in which we create and offer to one another, practiced and made real in our community by our commitment. We are the ones we've been waiting for. May it be so, and blessed be.